This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. And I love this. Go take care of yourself by going to betterhelp.com/PWNA. Hey guys, you all know that we talk a great deal about mental illness and mental health on this podcast. I've shared a lot about my bouts with depression going back to middle school. Wrote a book on it. In 2019, I was suicidal for the first time in my life. And after a 5-month or so fight, I almost didn't make it out of the ring alive. I almost got myself Ivan Drago'd like in Rocky IV. That's kind of messed up. But I struggle, so I can joke around how I want. I've actually shared 6 episodes on that story of 2019, and we'll continue for a few more segments in 2022. But today, I talked to a personal friend I'll never forget meeting at